We're going to talk about tonight one of my favorite albums of all time, The Chronic. The Chronic album from Dr. Dre, 1992, right at the end of 92. It was a great time in hip hop. I do remember, for me especially. Let's go back to 92. 1992, I was in high school, freshman, and the anticipation around this album alone was crazy because, you know, we had already heard Nothing But a G Thing, and that revolutionized music. Like that song right there was something different. Take yourself back. I know we know G-Funk in hindsight as it is now, but there was nothing ever heard like that back in 1992 when we heard Nothing But a G Thing, and then Snoop coming in with the 1, 2, 3 into the 4. Snoop Doggy Dogg and Dr. Dre is at the door, ready to make an entrance. So back on up, cause I'm about to rip the motherfucking cut. And just to hear Long Beach on a song back then, I remember I was ecstatic, dude. Cause Compton and Long Beach together, now you know you in trouble. I mean, being from Long Beach, that was dope to me. 92 was a great year in music. And this was right after Dr. Dre left Ruthless and NWA.
That particular record, man, that's like I would say the toughest record that I recorded in my career, because, you know, it was right after my separation with Ruthless. Going from that to the organization that I went to, you know, and all the things that were happening in the studio during the making, it was crazy, you know. During that process, my house burned down. I was shot in the legs, you know what I mean? And I was in the studio on crutches for a couple of weeks, you know? So it was a lot that went into that record. That's one of those records that I don't even listen to anymore. I just don't really like being taken back to that era.
This was his make it or break it time. And he made it. Boy, did he make it. In a year that had a lot of good music. I mean, I'm telling you, this is just my opinion, but, you know, 92 to 95, 96 was some of the best music ever. Just that period. I mean, that year alone, 1992, you had South Central Cartel. They released an album. Sir Mix-a-Lot, Boogie Down Productions, Fushnikins, The Youngsters. You guys remember The Youngsters? The Youngsters were hard. So many albums. Arrested Development came out that year. Crisscross came out. You guys know you were bumping Crisscross. Don't even lie. I know as a 13, however old I was at that time, I was definitely rocking the Crisscross look for a quick second. I had the braids and everything. But 1992, what else? We had Das FX. Forget about it. Those guys changed the game too. Spice One. I mean, dude, a lot of great music came out that year. And at the end of 92, Dre drops the Chronic album. And I remember not even understanding what the Chronic was, Look, I know now all bud is pretty much good. You get it from a dispensary or you get it from the homie. It's pretty much good. But back then, the Chronic was the Chronic, guys. The Chronic was it. Because up until then, we were smoking a lot of Stress, Pretendo. You kids don't know how good you have it. You kids don't know what it's like to separate the stems from the seeds. You lucky bastards. But we had to do that. And sometime you would accidentally get a seed in your joint paper, and then you would light the seed and it would either pop and scare the dog out of you, or it would smell up the car or wherever you're smelling like, oh man, dog, you put a seed in there. Somebody put a seed. Who rolled the joint? Really, Dusty? You rolled the joint, bro? You put a seed in, dog. Oh, my bad. My bad. That's why it's extra fluffy, huh? But dirt weed up until that time, man. Dirt. You could buy an ounce for 50 bones. And it was just dirt. Dirt weed. Straight from Mexico. Not the best at all. Ah, that's good. And then the Chronic comes out. And one thing that the Chronic was, like, especially if you were young at that time, you're my age, everyone had to chip in. Everyone had to chip in. The Chronic was $20 off top for a little ass baggie. A little baggie. Barely, you were lucky if you got a joint, but got you high as hell. It got you high. But it was looking back now, I would love to smoke some Chronic just to see what it tastes like today. The Chronic would probably be the worst of the worst weed that you can get now at any dispensary or anywhere. But back then, the Chronic was the Chronic. So Dre names his album The Chronic.
Came up with the name The Chronic, which was the name on the streets for orange bud, because it was just so bomb. It was indica, see, and it was something that nobody else had but California. So Snoop said, you need to name your album The Chronic because it's the bomb.
And this album changed music. This album changed everything. Let's dive into The Chronic, and we'll just talk a little bit about it in between. But obviously, we talked about Nothing But a G Thing. That was a huge hit. The video was dope. And this felt like a new era in hip-hop. And I didn't know much back then about Eazy and Dre's, I guess Dre's departure from Ruthless Records. I had no idea what was going on back then, The only stuff I knew is through the music, which leads me to my second favorite song on that album, F with Dre Day. This song used the Atomic Dog sample, had a lot of funkadelic vibes to it. Great song. Now, what was crazy about the song was they were dissing Eazy-E. They were dissing Luke Skywalker, Luke from 2 Live Crew. And they were dissing Tim Dog. Why were they dissing all three of these people? Off top, I can't remember why they were dissing Luke, but I know it didn't go well for Death Row Records at, I do believe it was a Freaknik or something along those lines, a convention that rappers meet up at. And apparently the Death Row camp met up with the Luke Skywalker camp, and word has it that the Luke Skywalker camp walked away the winners that day.
Jack the Rapper I talk about in the book was when we had the big fight with Snoop Dogg them in Death Row.
Yeah.
When we had the little beef going on, and then they eventually came down to Jack the Rapper. I tried to talk to Jack and his wife, not his wife, but daughter Jill, and say, look, you need to arrange a sit down with me and Suge Knight, because if they gonna come down here, there's so many people from Miami. I got so much love in Atlanta. It's gonna be an ugly sight.
There were also rumors that Dr. Dre was not allowed to set foot in Miami for a very long time because of that song. Yeah, they dissed Luke hard, man. Luke's bending over, so Luke's getting bust a must. I thought it was easy, thought it was a mark, cause I used to hang with Eazy. Animosity, ain't to speak what you spoke. Hey, yo, Dre, what up? Break the nigga off, Loke. If it ain't another Loke, that I got to somewhere. Those lyrics were hard back then, and they were going hard at these guys. They also went at Tim Dog. Why were they going at Tim Dog? Well, they were going at Tim Dog because Tim Dog released a song called F Compton. And he didn't say F. Compton. He released a song called F Compton. He's a Bronx rapper. Tim Dog. I actually did a special on Tim Dog. Type in Dusty Vision Tim Dog and you can find it. Or if I remember, I'll just post the link in the description below. But Tim Dog, they called him Tim M-U-T. Your bark was loud, but your bite wasn't vicious. And the rhymes you were kicking were quite bootylicious. You get with Doggy Dog, oh, is he crazy? With your mama and you sing it along, hollering, baby. We all know that song, man. But yeah, that beat was hard. When it came in, just boom, 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 boom. Boom. Boom, 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 boom. I mean, that beat is crazy. I just remember hearing that beat and like my brain is blown. I've never heard anything like this, but I need more. This album was great. It started off with that intro. Make my butt the chronic. I want to get effed up. Boom, boom, boom. Make my butt the chronic. I want to fire up. I want the bomb. I want the chronic. I want to fire up. So off top, it starts in a good direction. One of my other favorite songs in there, it's a favorite song to this day. It's one of my favorite summer songs specifically. Let me ride, sweet top and cherry dropping. Let me ride. So much funkadelic Parliament elements in this song. It's crazy. Even the video is pretty dope. Boom, 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 boom. Just another motherfucking day for Dre. So I begin like this. No medallions, dreadlocks, or black fists. It's just that gangster glare with gangster raps. They're gangster man, they're gangster slaps. Word to the motherfucking streets. Word to these hype ass lyrics and dope beats. Let me ride. That was my joint. What a sample that is, man. What a sample. Check this out. One of my other favorite songs on this album is The Day the Niggas Took Over. This song, because keep in mind, 92, it was a very revolutionary time, even for gangster rap. I mean, gangster rappers were dropping messages in their music. And this song is one that I just loved it. How many niggas are ready to loot? Yeah, so what you want to do? What you want to do? I said, how many niggas are ready to loot? Got myself a Uzi and my brother a 9. Lil Love's gonna get you sample. But such a great song, man. It was a revolutionary time. We had just had the riots had just happened. What, 6 months prior to that? You had the Rodney King situation. Before that, Latasha Harlan's.
Also coming in for heavy criticism lately, the lyrics in some, not all, but some rap music. More and more radio stations are taking requests to tone it down.
We went from the house party generation to the nothing but a G thing generation. House party generation, everybody wanted to dance, have a good time, had funky, crazy haircuts and bright ass colored clothes. But literally, within a couple years, gangster rap came into play, and now everybody's dressing baggy, everybody's dressing like a cholo, everybody's dressing like a gangster, because that's what was hot at that time. So I remember it was still a good time for me because I wasn't a gangster, even though a lot of us dressed that way, because that's just what was popular. The baggy look, it was just popular at that time. But I remember that being a time of where, yes, everybody wanted to dance, and now everybody wants to put their feet on the wall and be wallflowers and just nod their head. Never knowing if something could go down. Gunshots. It was a messed up time as well in the streets. 92 was crazy. Crazy. It was a time when we had the highest murder rate, unfortunately. It was a time where the following year, I believe, or the following year after that, 93 and 94, is where we had upwards of 2,500 homicides in 1 year in Los Angeles. 2,500 homicides. We don't even reach 1,000 now. We haven't reached 1,000 in a very long time, even though we're heading back up to those levels. But keep in mind what the streets was going through during this time, 92, 93, when Dre released The Chronic. It was a revolutionary / gangster time. You had artists like Paris. You guys remember Paris? He was from the Bay Area. Gorilla Funk, that's what it is. Gotta get into you. This was a good time in hip hop. Even looking back in hindsight, and even as I'm talking about it right now, it's giving me good vibes. Now, keep in mind, this is where Snoop Dogg this is where Snoop Dogg showed that he was a superstar. We had already heard Snoop Dogg in the 187 on a motherfucking knob, yeah, and you don't stop. We had already heard Snoop in that. So we knew he had something. Who is this guy? The voice is great. This laid back dude, the voice was crazy. But then Snoop came on this album and just did his thing. We were also introduced to a lot of other artists on this album, which we'll get into later, but RBX. We also had Corrupt Young Gotti.
Like it's a kid named Corrupt in here. He hard. Snoop Corrupt want to battle you. We formed a little circle, so him and Snoop just started going at it. And, everybody was like, that was a straight tie. They kept saying dumb shit after dumb shit. Couldn't nobody win. Everybody started breaking up and stuff, so I ran up to Corrupt. I said, let me get your phone number. At that time, we was doing stuff for the Chronic. Dre had asked us to come move with him, so we moved with him up in the valley, just to get us out the hood and away from everything. So I told Corrupt, come up. So I got Corrupt up in there. We recorded 5 songs.
And when I first heard Corrupt rap, I'm like, okay, this guy, who is this guy? I need more of this guy. He was an amazing lyricist. Never really heard anything like that in my life. So we got Corrupt, we got RBX, another voice that just, it's crazy. It's a great, distinct voice.
Woke up, like, fool, I got this track you need to come check out. And I'm like, okay. He said, if you finish this will be the last song on the album. And I said, oh, okay then. So I was listening to the track and then it just hit me. 7 executions. And I did it. I was just waking up and I was kind of rehearsing it. Thought Dre was going to let me do it again, but he didn't let me do it again. I knew it was dope, kinda, because when I finished it, Dre kicked me out the studio. I was just doing the rap and Dre put the bomb in there. I just did the rap. I just, I dropped off like he was. Then Dre, King Jedi, he heard it and it was like we knew what to put in there, the sound effects wise. And
we had Daz, that nigga Daz.
First record that I produced was Rat-a-tat-tat, you know what I'm saying? And I helped with Lil Ghetto Boy, and then I rapped on These Nuts. So I was doing both, you know what I'm saying? And Lil Ghetto Boy and Day the Niggas took over.
We also had the DOC, who unfortunately just at that time had lost his voice due to a major car accident.
Doggy Dog was a great spitter. He just had no idea how to make a song. When you talk about G-Thing, Snoopy went upstairs. He was living in my house then. And I tell Snoopy the most important line is the lines are the first one and the last one, because you must grab them off the top. He went upstairs and I stayed downstairs and we both wrote. We met up in about an hour. Snoop was a great student. The beginning of G-Thing is his spin on the beginning of Funky Enough, right? He went right back to the numbers, showing me he understood what I meant. That's the first important thing, is to grab them.
It's kind of cool, actually. They're not thinking about doing it. They are doing a new album with DOC using AI technology. So and it's amazing what they're doing. I'm really looking forward to that. I'm gonna definitely check that out, because DOC, he was on the rise, man. He was the one that everyone was talking about. He was going to be the thing, especially after it's getting funky or funky enough. Funky enough, yeah. That song was so hard. Dallas native, came from Dallas to LA and just blew up. And apparently he got into he got into a very bad car wreck, and it damaged his vocal cords, and he was never the same again. But that nigga Daz, some would say most of this album was produced by Daz. Those in the know would say that Dre didn't produce most of this album like he got credit for. Yes, he may have oversaw it. Of course he oversaw it. But But a lot has been said that beats were basically already finished and Dre did some fine tuning to them and slapped that executive producer role on him. But there is no doubt in anyone's mind that nigga Daz was a beast, is a beast, and is a legend for this album alone. This album alone. All right, so what other songs were on this? They had a bunch of skits in between. That was kind of cool back then. Now I just skip all the skits, but you know, they had the D's nuts and you know the $100,000 Project Pyramid or something like that. I don't remember, $20 sack pyramid or something. They had those. That was cool. But, and I know I keep saying this, one of my favorite songs in the album. Damn, this might be my favorite. Let me think for a second. This might be my favorite song on the album. When I hear this song, it takes me back to a good time. It takes me back to being a kid. It takes me back to being a 14-year-old kid.
And I'm going to say this and I'm going to end mine. If you ain't down for the Africans here in the United States, period, point blank, if you ain't down for the ones that suffer in South Africa from apartheid and shit, damn it, you need to step your punk ass to the side and let us brothers and us Africans step in and start putting some foot in that ass.
I'm going to tell you right now, if I have to die today for this little African right here to have a future, I'm a dead mother.
Little ghetto boy playing in the ghetto street. What you gonna do when you grow up and have to face responsibility? Now I'm holding my nine, sitting on swole, 27 years old, up for parole, stroll with the dog pound right behind me. Something. Oh man, oh, such a good song with a good message. Great sample, another great sample. Donny Hathaway, Little Ghetto Boy. Classic. Nigga with a Gun, that was cool. Still, you know, that still was that was cool. Rat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat-tat, and I never hesitate to put him on his back. That was a good one too. We're just gonna keep rolling through them because this was a lot. There was a lot. Oh, Lyrical Gangbang. Lyrically, that's my shit. Oh, the Lady of Rage. How can we not talk about the Lady of Rage? One of the hardest female MCs to ever touch a mic. The Lady of Rage. Man. Lyrically a beast. I wish he would have been able to do more. But apparently she was locked into a contract that just made it impossible for her to spread her wings and give the world the full capability of what we could see her do. I loved her in Next Friday. I really was rooting for her as an actress because she was one of the better characters in that movie. Baby D. Come on now. You guys knew that was Lady of Rage, right? Baby D. Come on, Baby D. I'll give you a cookie. You want a cookie? Like she killed it. Her comedic timing was good, you know, like all of that. And it's hard. She was keeping up with some heavyweights to go, you know, head to head with Mike Epps, who is no slouch in the comedy game. That's pretty amazing, if you ask me. But yes, the Lady of Rage. She was on Lyrical Gangbang. Then High Power. That's my man. 7 execution style murders. I have no remorse because I'm the murderer. Have you ever heard of a killer? I drop bombs like Hiroshima. How hard is that, bro? Get out of here. Get out of here. All right, then you have some more skits. What about Stranded on Death Row, though? Going back to the Lady of Rage, bro. RBX, Corrupt, Snoop, all on one. Cell Block 2, Rage, Lyrical Murderer, Stranded on Death Row, when now I'm serving a lifetime sentence. There'll be no repentance. Since it's the life that I choose to lead, I plead guilty. On all accounts, let the ball bounce where it may. It's just another trip into my AK. Oh, man, she was so dope, dude. And Corrupt, of course, man. Corrupt, Cellmate, Corrupt, Inmate, Cell Block 1. Something like that, I don't know. But yes, man, that was dope. And they had the Roach sample, or the not the sample, but the interlude, I guess you would call it. And then it ends with bees ain't shit. Just ain't but hoes and tricks. Just ain't but hoes and tricks. Lick on these since the day. This the get a hooter back to the home to make a quick road to your stove to get me a photo. Snoop Doggy Dogg paged, it must mean mo hoes. As I rose down the streets to Long Beach just so I can meet a freak to lick me from my head to my feet. Man, dude. Yeah, Daz came off. Daz is no slouch in the lyrical game either, guys. Daz, and to be able to even hang with Corrupt in a group like that, Daz, he definitely proved that he is the man. Definitely one of my favorite albums. Takes me back to a very good time in my life. Comment down below, what's your favorite album of all time? This is not my favorite album of all time, but it's definitely up there. It's one of the more influential albums of my life, if that makes sense. It made me fall more in love with hip hop. It made me start understanding what legends were and seeing a legend in the making like Dr. Dre. You know, I already knew, like, okay, he's a legend. Like, this is going to make him a legend. He left Ruthless Records. He left Eazy-E. Everybody was counting him out. And he just came and did the damn thing. Eazy-E got a little payment every time this album was sold because of that contract that Dr. Dre was let out of on Ruthless Records. He got paid. So that's why when Eazy said, because Dre Day always made Eazy's payday, like Eazy was getting paid from the Chronic.
I had no idea that you make money off product from Dr. Dre and Snoop. Now, how did that work out?
Basically, I had Dre signed as exclusive producer and exclusive artist. So when Dre tried to make his deal over at Interscope, you know, I was included for the next 6 years.
Eazy wasn't upset. But yes, this album also introduced the world to who we would know as Suge Knight. Suge Knight, owner of Death Row Records. This was probably his first major debut, major album, make it or break it type stuff, going back to what I was saying earlier. Later, they would go on to release a catalog. And when I say a catalog, the Death Row music in the 90s was amazing, dog. Soundtracks alone, Above the Rim, Murder Was the Case. Great soundtracks that I bump to this day. And just albums, classic albums. Dog Food, classic. Snoop Dogg's album, which came out and took over the world. Oh, I'm going to talk about Snoop's album in the future for sure. Snoop's album, there was no, I can't think of any other anticipation that I have for an album in my entire life. And when I say entire life, I mean my entire life. The anticipation for Snoop Dogg's album back in whenever it came out, 93, I think it was. Oh, forget about it. So we're going to talk about that definitely on future episodes of Dusty Vision Radio. Now, I'm going to head out of here, and I just want you guys to know these won't be an hour long. I mean, they may be, I don't know, depending on how I'm feeling, how the vibe is going, you know what I mean? But they could be 25 minutes, they could be 50 minutes, they could be an hour and 20 minutes. It just really depends. But I think I've said everything I need to say about this classic album, The Chronic. It is, in fact, one of my favorite albums. It's a classic, and if you haven't heard it, I would suggest you pop it in. If you're a younger cat who hasn't heard the Chronic album, check it out. And if you haven't heard it in a long time, put it in. It's a great listen. Actually, you know what? I think I'm gonna go on and bump this album offline while I finish up this J and finish up my drink. Thank you guys so much for tuning in to Dusty Vision Radio. Please hit that like button. And if this is your first time joining the channel and you like what you hear, please hit that subscribe button. I'm out. Peace.